everybody, Nick Licameli here. Today, it's a very serious video, and I have something to tell you. The name of the series is called I Was Wrong. I was wrong. I was wrong, sort of. As I look back on some of my videos, I feel the need to kind of revisit some topics and kind of call myself out a little bit and add some corrections or a little comments here and there just to clarify how things have changed and how my perspective has changed since then. There's always that risk of things changing, but the piece that you write or the video that you make is constant. That's always going to be there, regardless of how you change, how science changes, how anything changes. You know, you never know. You just never know what's going to come out, what's going to change. And the last thing that I and pretty much anyone I think would want to do is put out misinformation. So this series is going to be called I Was Wrong, and here we go. Alright, welcome back to I Was Wrong. So this video is about neck posture and the forces that go through the neck. So I'm going to kind of walk you through it and leave my comments where I think I should have said things differently, where appropriate. So let's get into it. Hey everybody, Dr. Nick here on Feel Good Friday. Today I'm going to talk about neck posture and why it's so important. I'm going to use a stack of toilet paper to show you what I mean. The spinal column is made up of vertebrae, which are bones that sit one on top of the other. There's a canal that runs behind everything called the spinal canal, and that's where your spinal cord runs. Very similar to this stack of toilet paper. Each of the rolls are like your vertebrae, right? They sit one on top of the other, and then the hole that runs down them is similar to your spinal column, where your spinal cord would run. So I like that description. I actually do. I think it really depicts the way that the anatomy of the spine is made up and how the spinal cord integrates with the vertebrae. So all that is fine up to this point. After this, I start talking about posture and how keeping your neck straight in quote-unquote good posture is beneficial because it's going to reduce the shearing force on the vertebrae as if our spines were as fragile as a stack of toilet paper. So that's the problem I have with this video. It turns out that posture actually is, there's no real such thing as good or bad posture. Posture gets problematic when we don't move out of a posture. So when we stay in a certain position for too long, that's when it gets problematic. So sitting upright and sitting straight with quote-unquote good posture for too long and not moving will eventually be painful, and slouching will feel better. Then eventually slouching will feel discomfort, not comfortable, and then you would kind of sit up straight and it feel better. So the idea with posture is that we want to keep moving, but that there isn't necessarily a good or bad posture. Now, when I'm standing up straight and when the column is straight up and down, there's not much extra force needed to keep these together because the force of gravity is just pressing one into the other, into the other, into the other. So there's not much force that's needed to keep these together. If I were to tip this forward, though, they're going to fall apart. So there needs to be some kind of external force to keep them together. That's where your muscles come in. The muscles around your neck work to stabilize your spine. So the further you deviate from straight up and down, the more force those muscles are going to be required to give to keep everything together. Just a small deviation from straight up and down can put a lot of extra force through your spine. Let me show you what I mean. So what I'm saying actually does make sense, right? I mean, it makes sense that if you have these structures that are stacked on top of each other, it would take less energy to keep them stacked if it's straight up and down. But the vertebrae don't sit on top of each other as snug as like blocks or Legos or the stack of toilet paper. And the muscles, yes, the muscles stabilize your spine, but there are a bunch, many strong ligaments that also stabilize your neck. A 30-degree change from straight up and down, so a 30-degree forward bend would which is right here, puts an extra 40 pounds of force through your spine. A 45-degree bend puts almost 50 pounds of extra force through your neck. And a 60-degree forward bend puts 60 pounds of extra force through your neck. That's the weight of a small child. So you may have heard those numbers before. You may have even seen an illustration in a social media post. And while that may be true, while those forces, may go through the neck, it's made to take those forces, right? Like the forces that go through our kneecap when just negotiating stairs is unbelievably large. But our bodies are made to take that force. So I think my explanation here, and especially, finishing up with the fact that that's a small child hanging on your neck, I think it's more fear-mongering and almost putting a sense of, fear into the patients, where if they deviate from that posture, they're going to be cranking on their neck and causing damage, when that's not the case. You have to catch yourselves. If you're walking around majority of your day with a slight forward head, that's a lot of extra pressure you're putting on those delicate structures of your neck. When those muscles around your neck are forced to be overworked, that's when muscle spasms occur and even some headaches. Also, that extra force being put through your spine can also cause damage to the nerves and other delicate structures in your neck. So once again, I think this is just putting more fear and apprehension into people rather than empowering and doing them any kind of good. We do want to put fear in people when we are sure of a diagnosis. So if someone has cancer, we want to make sure that they are somewhat fearful and to kind of get them off their butts to get the right treatment. But if we don't have any evidence to substantiate that posture can cause neck pain or headaches, then fear is definitely not something that we want to instill in our patients. When you add weight to that, like a weighted barbell or an overhead press or a deadlift or a bench press, and you take that neck out of proper alignment, that force just gets more and more dangerous. Now, while there is no good evidence that shows posture is dangerous, or there's a bad posture, good posture, I do recommend somewhat keeping your spine in neutral when you're loading it. I think neutral spine is a spectrum. I don't think it's a one perfect position, but I do think, in my opinion, that if you're going to be loading the spine, I think it should be close to neutral. If you do have pain, you have to make sure you go see a healthcare practitioner to fix these problems. They can also be prevented very easily. So that's what we got for today. Again, I wasn't trying to do spread misinformation with that video. I think some of it was pretty good. I think the description of the anatomy, how it kind of stacks on top of each other and the spinal cord runs down the canal, I think that was pretty good. But I think explaining the importance of good, quote-unquote, good posture and the forces that go through the neck with deviating from good posture, whether or not those forces are there or not, which they very may well be, is irrelevant. Because I think our bodies are made to take that load. Our bodies are made to adapt, and the body's an amazing thing. And again, there's tons of forces that go through our joints on a day-to-day basis, just doing normal functional activities. And our bodies are made to do it. So I don't want to instill fear. And be aware if anyone kind of tells you these things and makes you fear them, because our body's made to do most of this stuff. Basically, we don't want to put fear in people when we don't have evidence to substantiate that. And we want to empower people and make sure we let them know that they're not broken, right? So that's a basic theme behind this video. Thank you so much for watching this episode. I was wrong. Episode 6. Alright, like, comment, subscribe if you want, and we'll see you next time.